Hello everyone and welcome back to Timberborn. This is episode 22 of the One Pod Challenge. It has been a couple of months since we had a video in this series, so if you are new to this video series, go ahead and check out some of the previous episodes, but if you do not want to do that, I'll go ahead and give you a quick little rundown of what we have going on. In this series, it is almost exclusively bots. We have one pod that's over here, and this breeding pod is what produces the iron teeth. We only have 18 beavers in this entire world. And then we have well over 350 bots in this world. And in the middle of this water pool, we have the beaver city. And so they have all the amenities that a beaver needs. And so in our first district, we have a lot of the production line. We do have some power collection as well. And that all stems from some bad water domes that are placed over here. We have these open, so they are constantly providing some streams through here. We are both harvesting the bad water and the power from the bad water. And then once it passes through all of these water wheels, it goes into this large bad water pool and it produces some more power for us over here. And one of the things that we have been experiencing is a little bit of a power shortage. And as you can see in this power network, we're producing about 14,500 power, whereas we need almost 20,000. So we are about 5,000 or 6,000 power short. And part of that is because we are in a drought at the moment. And then that brings us to our second district, where as you can see, we have a lot more water wheels. They are turning right now, although trying to chase it upstream, I'm a little bit surprised. I didn't realize that we'd actually have some water in here. So it looks like we have some water being pumped out from the center by these mechanical fluid pumps. And it's kind of hard to tell from here, but if we zoom in just a little bit, you can see that these mechanical fluid pumps go down another 3 tiles. So they're pumping water out of the middle, and then that's keeping all of this in here irrigated. And then in our second district, we have even more production and storage over here. Plus we have some gravity batteries, and then we have a massive tree farm underneath this entire city. And then we actually have trees in quite a few places all throughout the map. But unfortunately we are once again in a little bit of a wood shortage. We have only about 150 at the moment. And so one of the things I'm going to work on in today's episode is getting some more trees planted, which I don't really know where else we're going to plant it. I think we'll have to go vertical. And so that's going to mean that we're going to have to be using some dirt. Fortunately, we have a few dirt excavators. Looks like we have a couple of them paused. This one over here is working. And then way over here we have even more. And as I'm getting back into this series, I do remember that we wanted to have this area be one of the irrigation zones. Although as I'm looking at it now, it's quite a bit of space that we want to fill up with water. And we don't really have a constant supply of water over to this area. And although we actually do have some water sources down here, during a bad tide, obviously these will be producing some bad water instead of water, and then during a drought they won't be producing any water at all. So it's not quite as consistent as I would like for us to try and fill this up. So I might get a little creative with filling some of this in with dirt. But before we go any farther, I do remember in the end of the last episode, we were going to unlock the final monument. And so the Earth Repopulator costs 20,000 science. We have 21,000 science, so we have enough, and then we have the perfect spot set up for it, so we can go ahead and place it down. Although we do want to make sure that we lower the priority. We do not need this to be the top priority for any of the bots working on it. And then we'll need to save up another 5,000 science in order for us to actually have the bots work here. Since we have the beavers working hours set to 0, we don't want them to be working on anything. And as you can see, the bots are putting a lot of materials in here. It costs 1,500 gears and then 2,000 treated planks and metal blocks. Fortunately, it looks like we have a good amount of gears. Hopefully we don't completely run out, although it is entirely possible that does happen. And then it looks like we are a little bit short on treated planks, and then we'll also be a little bit short on metal blocks. And since we have some space over here, let's go ahead and start placing down some dirt blocks. And so now we have some dirt blocks that are going to be placed down. We'll go ahead and remove actually a few of them so we can have a little 3x3 water grid, because the intent is that I want to get some trees planted over here since we are a little bit short on wood. Although it looks like we have over 500 wood now, so that's a nice little change. But really we should try and max out our wood storages. And so we can also go ahead and start planning for getting some more vertical tree farms set up over here. But first let's go ahead and lay the groundwork for getting some of these foresters set up. And so as you can see, we are limited in how far we can actually make the dirt blocks be placed down. Since they can only extend 3 blocks from the support, they can't overhang more than that number. So we'll need to make sure that we have the columns spaced out appropriately. And so the drought has officially ended. We are beginning cycle 35. They have already made some good progress in placing down some of these dirt blocks. we have an interesting looking pattern over here. Oh, and I am actually coming across an issue right now. So we have this block that we want to go ahead and place down, but we can't place it down because it's not being supported by enough other blocks. And so in order to place it down, we have to go ahead and replace this one first, but we can't construct this one until this is completed, since it is dependent on the direction of the dirt blocks and what they're facing. So we have to go ahead and actually change this up a little bit. And it looks like if we remove it, we start removing a lot of columns. Okay, so I guess we can just remove this one. So now that does fit. And theoretically, we should be able to place down some of these once again. So now at the very least, we can start planting down some trees. So this is also going to be interesting, placing down the dirt blocks on top, since they have to be oriented in specific directions so that we don't run into that same issue up here. And then also we have to get the bots to actually make it up here. I think using the tube stations is going to be our best bet. Now I have seen some other folks use the overhangs in order to actually reach some of the dirt blocks. And so if I want to go ahead and use that, I'll need to make sure that they can actually reach all these. So I think I need to go ahead and spread them out every 3 tiles, since they should be able to reach one to the left and to the right. So every 3 would give that 2 gap in the middle here. In fact, if I want to keep going up, we might not even want to have it terminate right here. We could actually keep going up. And so let's go ahead and continue and place down some more of these platforms, and then also keep the tube stations going up. And so if you can't tell, I have not done vertical tree farming before. There may be some way that is super efficient to do it. If you guys have any videos that you know or that points it out, go ahead and leave a comment down below pointing to the video, because I can't imagine that I'm the only one who's never done this before. So for now, we're going to go ahead and assume that I'm only going to be making 2 additional stories. So we'll have it set up like this so that they can go over here, and then they should be able to reach some of these dirt blocks. We'll have to make another one adjacent to it. And then checking back in on our earth repopulator, looks like we did manage to place all the materials into here. We're about 54% in completing it, but as you can see, we are nearly out of treated planks. We are completely out of pine resin, and then looks like gears we have about 500, and then we have a little over 600 metal blocks. So good thing we didn't run out of anything. And so the bots are going to continue to work on this. And with it being day 3 of the wet season, let's go ahead and take a look at the power. As you can see, the water is flowing in full swing through here. So now we have 38,000 power, so we're almost double. In fact, we actually are double what we are demanding. So that is helping to charge up some of our gravity batteries, and these are rising pretty quickly. So when we have a full wet season, we have plenty of power going through. It's really just during a drought that we're experiencing a little bit of a power shortage. And then in this bad water bowl adjacent to the main city, this is completely filled with bad water. It's pouring through here and then into this area, and then it's slowly filtering out through this. If we want to go ahead and get all this to be water, going way upstream, we have to go ahead and start closing this bad water dome. We actually already have this one closed, so let's go ahead and close this one for now. Eventually, all these bad water pumps are going to pump out some of the bad water and going to lower the level here. Originally, I was going to use this as some power production. Maybe down the road, I could go ahead and still do that. We do have the option with the bad water domes, but for now, I'm going to see if we can try and make this whole area a little bit more blue. And then as you can see, we have 3 of the towers that are built now. They just need to build a couple more of these 2-way stations, and then we can go ahead and continue the overhangs in this direction. And then since we do have some more wood, we can go ahead and look at expanding our water wheel system over here. And in the last episode, we were experiencing a little bit of a wood shortage, and so we had to put a pause on the water wheel production. But now that we have some more wood, we can go ahead and expand the levees and then keep putting in some water wheels. And then I think we're also getting close to reaching the maximum hydraulic length that we can use for these water wheels. So we'll need to go ahead and bump the next part of these water wheels up 1 brick in elevation. And so we're going to put down some dirt blocks so we can bump it up 1 more. And then we'll have it extend a little bit this way, and then we can go ahead and double back. And then it looks like I already have the water wheel placement set up, since I have the levees lined up that match the water wheels. Although we will need to raise up the dirt blocks in elevation, that way the water can't just go underneath the water wheels. Instead, it will actually go and push the water wheels through. And then as the bots are working on placing down all these dirt blocks that we have selected, we can also go ahead and place down the final water wheel. And these large water wheels do cost quite a bit. It's 80 planks and 70 logs. Thankfully, we're rolling in both planks and logs, so I'm not too worried about that. And then it looks like we have a good amount of dirt, 1.2 thousand. And we do have some unemployed bots, so let's go ahead and turn on one of these dirt excavators since we have a lot of excess power at the moment. In fact, we can turn this second one on as well over here. And then back to our vertical tree farm, you can see that we are at a pause right now. I think we need to continue these overhangs. That way they can reach all the dirt blocks. And we can also start working on getting the third level established. Although now that I'm thinking about it, if I want to have some water on this level, I'm going to actually have to build up a couple blocks around it, or I'm only going to have to build up one block. But that is going to be a little bit less efficient than having a 3x3 grid. Instead it'll have to be basically a 5x5 grid. So that is going to be a little bit of a lesson learned over here. And so we are going to have to replace this forester right here. We'll have to go ahead and move him right over onto this side, since one of the dirt columns is going to be right where this guy is located. So we'll go ahead and get rid of him. At first I thought I need to go ahead and replace one of these platforms, but I forgot that you can go ahead and place terrain blocks on top of platforms now. And so as I'm thinking about it some more, one solution that I can do instead of doing the 5x5 grid up here is I'll need to remove some of the trees below, but I can always go ahead and use the metal platform that's 3x3 and then have it underneath and basically support the water from below. And then we can also go ahead and place down some of the impermeable floors, which will then allow the water to stay trapped over here. And so now we have even more of the dirt blocks set up, and so the next step is to continue to set up these towers that we have. Although I do want to make sure that we have access to actually get up here. So we'll need to have a tubeway station that terminates over here, and I wanted to connect one of these in, but unfortunately, since we have the platform and one level below, we can't actually place any tubeways since the regular one you can't build on top of it. And then you can't physically place one of the solid ones inside the platforms. And then coincidentally, we ended up placing the forester right here. So we have to go ahead and shift this overhang over just a little bit. And then we'll be able to go ahead and then place the tubeways up like this. And then we can go ahead and keep stacking those tubes. And then we have a lot of dirt blocks that are placed down. Hopefully they'll be able to make it without any problems. It is entirely possible that there's something in here that just does not work, but we'll go ahead and start working on it, and then we'll make adjustments as we need to. And I am seeing 8 workers. It looks like they actually finished the earth repopulator. So let's go ahead and switch this to bots. And now we need to go ahead and collect some treated planks and berries. Looks like we only have 60 berries, so that is not what we want. Unfortunately, we only have a small amount of berries over here. We could go ahead and expand the berries over this way just a little bit. Maybe we can go ahead and place some dirt blocks down just to expand our green space. Thankfully, we have a million bot workers and we have plenty of dirt stored up. But we will need to place down a temporary forester, and then we can go ahead and plant down some blueberries. And then we do need to go ahead and make sure we have some paths set up over here. Otherwise, the bots will not be able to construct the rest of this over in this area. And then it looks like I built out just a little bit too many dirt blocks. It's kind of hard to see. So underneath this level that has not been constructed, there is too deep for dirt blocks. And as you can see, there are a few that were almost done, but they didn't quite get to complete them. So we'll need to go ahead and expand in this direction. And honestly, we don't even really need all of these dirt blocks. We will just need the ones on top of them. And then we do have a drought approaching in 3 days. And as we just went over, the power produced from these water wheels and the ones over here is not quite enough to keep up with production. Thankfully, we do have some gravity batteries that we can go ahead and utilize. Okay, so what am I looking at? I see we have a tubeway right here, but then this one says it's too far from a district and cannot be reached. Let's go ahead and try to remove this one, and then we'll go ahead and add in a tube back here. Yeah, this one still says it's too far away. I am not sure why that's happening, because we were able to build all of these no problem. We'll go ahead and try to remove this one and then place it back in. Man, it is happening once again. We cannot reach this. I am not understanding that. Let's try building it out in this direction and up. Theoretically, I think that should work. I have no idea why that wouldn't be the case. Interesting. So they're constructing some of this from outside the tubeways, but they are constructing this one from inside. And then once again, it's too far from a district. I am super confused. But we don't need these. We can go ahead and remove them. I guess we're going to be putting a pause on this vertical farm, since for some reason they actually can't construct these. There was an update that got released today. Maybe it had something to do with that. I didn't read anything in the patch notes that had anything to do with the tubeway station, or specifically the tubeways. So if you guys know what the problem is, please let me know. Also, I am seeing a major problem right here. We are having some bad water overtopping, and that is no bueno. I think I've seen something about the water physics acting funny when it goes over an edge, so maybe that is the case right here. Let's go ahead and place down a couple pieces of dynamite, and then we can go ahead and blast those away. We'll see if that has anything to do with why we're overflowing now. And they place that down immediately, so we can go ahead and detonate it. And so we'll give it a little bit of time, but I'm not sure if that quite did the trick. And we are out of berries, so unfortunately breeding has come to a halt. This guy has been sucking up all the berries. 275 are in there. And we are out of berries over here. We have some more in this area. We can go ahead and finish off the planting. And we have a lot of bots who are sitting around not doing anything. Since we are still accumulating unemployed bots, we can go ahead and reduce the amount of workers we have in the bot assembler. So we'll keep it at 1 in here for now. We have some more bot assemblers throughout the colonies. Although I am seeing that we're running short on canola oil and canola seeds. And since we are maxed out on some of the other crops, we can go ahead and replace maybe some of the kohlrabi over here. And then maybe we can replace some cassavas as well. And it does look like that small tweak that we made has been doing a good job. The water is still pretty high, but it's not spilling over, so I think we should be good there. And as we wait for the drought to approach, that is where we're going to wrap up today's episode. The Earth repopulator is constructed. We are just waiting on some more resources in order for us to launch it, and then we will have officially completed this map. But we're not going to quite be done yet. We'll go ahead and still work on some of the projects that we have lined up. I do want to figure out this vertical tree farm, and I'm hoping some of you guys will be able to help me with why these vertical tubeways are not being able to be constructed. So go ahead and leave a comment down below if you know what the problem is. And so if you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and hit that like button. I really do appreciate it. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And with that, we will see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.